Say
Are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's go. Monday rapid fire, starting off the week. A little RF. Let's do this.
This was telling you what, it's getting a little bit tougher to put together these rapid fires in May.
I'm very passionate about one of the questions, so
I'm sure you are. I'm
very
sure you
excited.
Are. Which one it is going to be, might throw everybody else for a loop there. Fill in the blank. After Notre Dame picked up commitments for its 2026 class in back-to-back days with linebacker Jacob Clapper and then Javion Osborne, who is ranked as high as the number 6 running back in the nation. Any concerns you had after losing Chad Bowden to Southern Cal are blank.
They've been disintegrated for a while. And when it initially happened, I was very worried, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought his departure was one of the worst, quote unquote, portal jumps that Notre Dame could have gotten. Like I was very, very upset about it. But then he went all scorched earth against Notre Dame, and it was like, you know what? Enjoy the West Coast, man. Like I was over it pretty quickly.
And don't let it hit it in the door while you're out there.
Seriously, man. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
There you go. Yeah.
Like I was totally fine with it at that point. And the results that are happening without him here, Notre Dame hasn't lost a step. And I am in no way saying that he didn't set up, the foundation and do all the things, because him being at Notre Dame was massive. It was huge. He did so much good at Notre Dame. It's just as soon as he got out the door, it's like he forgot what got him there. And that kind of made me mad. And so now Notre Dame is doing just fine without him. And I'm cool with it. So I have no ill will or no ill-gotten gains at this point. Like, enjoy being a Trojan.
I agree with what USMA 87 is saying. He says, feels like recruiting is shooting higher, not taking numbers just to drop them later. I mean, they're going after and getting high quality guys on the defensive. Like look at the defensive ends that they got. Look at this running back, obviously, that they, that they just got the commitment from in Osborne. And like I could not be less concerned at this point after seeing. Now, granted, there was kind of that gap where it was like, is anything actually going to happen? And there was a transition period, obviously, as they were filling those positions and that kind of stuff. But they are hitting it hard, man. Like a bunch of 4-stars who have committed since he left. Like I realize, when you look at the class recruiting rankings and stuff like that, his class is obviously still considered pretty high out there. At USC, we've seen Notre Dame ranked number 1 at different points when he was still here, and they didn't quite finish with that ranking, because I think a lot of their ranking right now has more to do with just numbers.
Absolutely, because you get points for every kid that commits, and they've got literally twice as many kids in their recruiting class as Notre Dame does. So they've got more points, not by many though.
Right.
By the way, it's not by much.
Yep. And they are nailing it. And, again, like you lose a running back coach like Dela McCullough as well, and you're concerned about that, the way he recruited that room and the way he put that room together. And then you just get, obviously Sider comes in and you're going to, you get this dude who is just put together.
Oh, yeah.
Osborne,
seriously.
Like 5'10", 200 pounds. That is a man's body right now, ready to go.
You're not kidding.
He is put together.
Man.
So my concerns are zero. Like they are kicking it right now. And I think that there's a case that they have actually taken their recruiting to another level. As great as Chad Bowden was when he was here, I definitely think there's a case that they have taken it to another level. Maybe it's a more congruent operation now that he's gone. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
like not sitting on the inside of that room, but on the outside, it sure looks like things are going pretty well.
I agree. I completely agree. And again, he set the foundation, and it's, to be honest with you, it's a similar conversation with the Brian Kelly and the Chad. Like it's a similar conversation for me. It's like I am willing to give Brian Kelly a lot of credit for getting Notre Dame up to where they were.
Yeah,
and I give Chad Bowden a lot of credit for getting the recruiting operation. Yes, Marcus Freeman had a lot to do with bringing in certain guys, no doubt about it. but he was in charge of that whole operation, and he did a really good job. I can still hate him now, because of what he's saying and what he's doing,
All the poaching, and apparently he's out there podcasting a lot. I didn't realize that.
God.
Apparently he's out there.
He's not. I'll just leave it at he's not exactly playing by all the rules either. So
no, does not sound like it.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Interesting story that I saw this morning popped up over the weekend. After former Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers slid to the 7th round of the NFL draft, many have wondered why he didn't hit the transfer portal and stay in college for another year. There was talk about some schools were offering him, you heard these numbers like $6 million being floated out there. Crazy. When, there was talk about Quinn Ewers hitting the transfer portal. Well, Ewers' agent told ESPN's Todd Archer that if Ewers was going to transfer, he would have had to make that decision while Texas was still playing in the college football playoff. Here's what the agent, Ron Slavin, told ESPN. This is where it gets interesting here. Quote, "You can ask those questions, but the reality of it is the way the portal schedule is set, it was not possible for Quinn because he didn't want to be talked to about the portal. When they beat Arizona State on January 1st, the next game was January 10th. If he was going to commit to Miami or Notre Dame, he's going to do that while his team's got a playoff game in a week, and his teammates are going to look at him like, you're going to another school if we lose? You can't do that." End quote. Okay, Vince. So at the very least, the agent is suggesting that Notre Dame and Miami were the two top suitors in pursuit of Quinn Ewers at that time in January, while obviously Texas was still in the college football playoff, while Notre Dame was still in the college football playoff. So what do you think of this?
I think that his agent is 50% full of crap, number one, and 50% probably telling the truth. Look, I understand. I'm going to answer this two different ways. So the first way is I totally get, because of where the transfer portal is, it puts guys who are still in the playoff in a very awkward, very awful situation. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. And I totally understand where Quinn and his agent, like, I get everything that he just said. Totally get that. He could have, he's got to have his degree by now. I would assume he's been at Texas for a while. So you can graduate transfer anytime. You don't have to hit the portal window. So that would be my one pushback. Like, if you're going to graduate, if you have your degree, you could have jumped in at any point. But we'll just
and you're in the playoff, so there's an extension on
that good
any
point.
Team that's in the playoff. So,
Great point.
Great point.
So, there's a little bit of pushback there. I understand you don't want to jump in the portal as you're preparing to play a game. Like, I get that. As the starting quarterback, that's a terrible look. Like, I get that. But I do feel like there was ways around it. Okay. Now, the Notre Dame part. There is zero chance that Notre Dame was recruiting Quinn Ewers. Zero.
I agree.
It didn't happen. It did not happen.
And I think if anything, just like this agent is just, like flippantly throwing all this out there right now, I think if anything, the agent may have contacted Notre Dame in an attempt to, like drive up the price, say Miami was actually involved in this, like drive up the price to Miami or Oregon or, whoever it happened to be. So I'm not saying that there, that there wouldn't have been contact, but I completely agree. Like, in terms of Notre Dame's interest in Quinn Ewers, based on everything that we have seen and heard, like going way back, Notre Dame was not interested in going to the transfer portal for a third straight year. And especially if $6 million or even $5 million was the price tag.
No chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
I think that this was the agent doing his job and just spreading this all over the place.
And I don't have a problem with that, to be perfectly honest with you. Agent can say whatever they want to help their client. I don't have any issue with that. But he wasn't coming to Notre Dame. Like, that was not going to happen. We dispelled that rumor back when it was going on in the first place, and we're going to dispel it now. Sources say Notre Dame had zero interest in going to the portal, let alone going for Quinn Ewers and paying $6 million. It was just not going to happen. Right. And if you need more proof that that's the case, just look at what happened this spring with Notre Dame and who is still in the quarterback battle, because that's who they have their faith in.
Right.
And they were on the roster already. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't going to happen.
And I mean, everyone was worried about who was going to hit the transfer portal. I mean, if you would have brought in Quinn Ewers, there's a chance that all three of the Kenny Minchie, Steve Angeli, and CJ Carr would have hit the transfer portal if you brought in Quinn Ewers.
And
or any other transfer.
Yeah. You're not doing yourself the service that you think you are by bringing somebody in. And Notre Dame knew that. Marcus Freeman is not an idiot. He's not going to bring in yet another transfer person or transfer quarterback to that room because of that exact reason. Yes, he's going to do whatever he can to win. He thinks he's got the quarterback on the roster to win for him now. And he flat out said that in his press conference, like, we believe our next starting quarterback is on the roster. So I do believe that probably the agent reached out or somebody that's close to the program or whatever, but the program was never interested. That's for sure.
Like Andrew was saying that ESPN said Notre Dame and Ewers spoke during their draft coverage. She says he knows someone close to the program who said Milroe had discussions with Notre Dame. Again, is it Ewers and Milroe or is it their agents? I think it's the latter.
Correct.
Personally. And there's your representation, again, because it's the agent's job to reach out and make these kind of contacts and gauge interest. That kind of stuff happens all the time, just like the Olivia Miles TCU stuff.
Right.
That's like the agent was doing their job by going out and finding a landing spot. So,
I mean, and what's
so
the definition?
I'm not saying that nobody ever talked to anybody.
So what's the definition of discussions?
And there's also a difference between talking and actual interest.
Like, a discussion with Notre Dame. So does that mean they called Notre Dame and somebody in the recruiting office talked to the guy for a minute? Is that a discussion with Notre Dame? You know what I mean? Like the coaching staff, and I know this for a fact, they had no interest in going to the portal. None.
Right.
So again, if somebody in the building had a conversation with an agent, that's nothing. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, and like Anthony says, how many times does Freeman have to say the starting quarterback is currently on the roster? I mean, literally, I think that was asked right after the USC game, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, and he was very clear.
Yeah, about what was going to happen in terms of it was either right.
That's when
right around that time period. Anyway.
That's when the portal was opening.
Exactly.
And so he had to address it, and he's like, "Our starting quarterback is on the roster." I mean, still believe that, by the way. Tyler Buckner.
The Baltimore Ravens have exercised the fifth-year option on Kyle Hamilton. Notre Dame fans frequently like to say Hamilton was disrespected and overlooked in the NFL draft process. Do you buy or sell Hamilton disrespect during said draft process, Vince?
He went with the 14th overall pick.
See, this is what I keep coming back to. How are you disrespected when you went in the top half of the first round of the NFL draft?
I don't know how you were disrespected.
That's like a huge okay, he didn't go number 10, he went 14th. I don't get, you just can't keep living your life like a perpetual redheaded stepchild,
Right.
Why do people say that he was disrespected? Because, people evaluated him and, maybe didn't say a couple glowing things about him, they nitpicked him a little bit. I don't get this, Vince. But I keep seeing it. I keep seeing it, just within the last week, I've seen it some more. I don't get it.
By the way, he was also the first safety taken in the draft, in case anybody was curious.
Michael says because he should have been top 5 again. So he fell 9 spots.
Who cares? I'm sorry. If he was top 5, that means he would have either gone to, here are the top 5 draft picks and where they went. The Jaguars, the Lions, the Texans, the Jets, or the Giants. So which team? I think the answer is the Lions.
Michael's mad because the Giants had the 5th pick and he's a Giants fan and he wishes he had Kyle Hamilton.
Let me tell you.
What was it? Kayvon Thibodeau? Is that who went number 5?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was. So are you telling me that the Giants would have been better if Kyle Hamilton was at safety? Their issues
Well,
are
if I'm
well
Michael
beyond
Hahn,
that.
I'd sure as hell rather have Kyle Hamilton.
I get it.
But
I get it.
Thibodeau's
But
been okay, but yeah.
Going to the team that he went to worked out pretty stinking well for Kyle Hamilton. I'll say that. So
Michael is in on that, Vince.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. He just wanted a guy to root for. There's a point where you can feel disrespected if you're Kyle Hamilton, and that's fine if that's the chip on his shoulder that he plays with. At the end of the day, he went to a pretty solid situation in Baltimore.
And it's not like you can even say every NFL team passed on him at least once. 13 teams passed on him.
Not even that many because because the Lions picked twice. And the Jets picked twice. So it was like 10 teams or 11 teams.
Okay, there you go. That's right. The Jets had 2 picks.
And the Giants picked twice. So
I mean, that's what you should really be mad about, Michael Hahn, because the Giants, with all these multiple first-round picks, and they're still no better than what they are right now. That's probably why he's mad, because
That's right.
Well, we could stink, but at least we'd have Kyle Hamilton.
Oh, my goodness. That's fantastic. They went Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, the offensive tackle from Alabama. So there you go. That's hilarious. I'm sorry. You go 14th overall. You didn't get disrespected.
I can't cry for you.
No, yeah. Sorry. And he's going to make out like a band of the year from now when he gets to sign his free agent deal, whether that's with Baltimore or someplace else. He will get a second contract in the NFL, and he will be swimming in the money. So
yeah, he's going to be.
It'll be fine.
He's going to be rolling in some bank here. Like he's already sitting on a pretty nice stack, but it's going to be even bigger. You know, like you said, they pick up the 5th-year option, and then in the meantime, he's going to get the big, huge second contract after that.
I'm very curious to see what he makes. He signed a 4-year, $16.5 million contract. So I think he's doing okay.
So Michigan is going the self-imposed suspension route with head coach Sherrone Moore by suspending him for 2 games this season for the Connor Stallions sign stealing scandal. Big deal, little deal, no deal, Vince.
Unfortunately, at the moment, it's probably a little deal. They deserve more than the self-imposed 2-game suspension or whatever they're going to give, because it's probably going to be games of their choice. And it'll probably be New Mexico and Central Michigan are the 2 that they'll do. I guarantee you Sherrone Moore will be on the sidelines when Michigan goes to Oklahoma on September 5th or 6th. So it's a slap on the wrist at best. They're trying to avoid anything worse from the NCAA. If I'm the NCAA, I'm like, okay, great, you just did that. Here's the book of things that we're going to do now.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's a little deal.
Yeah, I think it's a relatively little deal as well. It is interesting that, Michigan is going the route of picking which games that they're going to selectively picking which games they're going to suspend him for. It's going to be weeks 3 and 4 against Central Michigan and Nebraska.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And that means he's going to get to coach weeks 1 and 2 against New Mexico. And then that Oklahoma game that you mentioned, he's an Oklahoma alum, actually. Found that out.
Oh, there you go.
So I think that's why, like if you want to give any, benefit of the doubt or whatever, they at least are like he's an Oklahoma alum in the games at Oklahoma, so they're going to let him coach that game. It feels like you should have just done this last year when you were having an 8-win season,
right?
Just done it at that point
when the writing was on the wall that you're not good.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Like Andre says, does anybody really even care anymore?
That's the problem. I wish they did.
So far down the road.
They cared a lot when it was all going down. They really did. And that's one of the problems with the NCAA when they do their investigations. They take years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Fill in the blank. When you think of Michigan football, blank is the first thing you think of.
My hatred, the just absolute hatred for that football program.
Really curious to see what yours was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like specific, like a moment in time or anything like that I think of when it comes to Michigan. Obviously I've been there before. I've been on campus. My brother-in-law graduated from there. I was in the area when he graduated. I did not go. I did not attend. I elected to stay home with the kids in the hotel room, where my kids were very little at the time.
Weak.
It was not going to go sit through that because it was in the stadium. It was in the football stadium.
Oh, really?
And it was raining.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what?
Good call then.
Lots of reasons not to go to this one.
Yeah.
I'll hang with the toddlers. But the bottom line is I just hate them. So I just do not like Michigan. I respect the school itself academically, but athletically, I just can't do it.
These are good answers by Anthony and Christopher. Anthony says Rocket 1989. Christopher says Rocket running another kickoff back for a touchdown. That was a rainy day as well. Brian says Bo Schembechler. Werewolf says the smell. See, the smell is what I think of when I think of USC in the Coliseum. Like if anyone's been on that the side of the Coliseum that the press box is on outside. I mean, just picture, like just think urinal cake. That's what the Coliseum
oh my gosh,
smells
really?
like, is a big urinal cake. Basically.
Oh, that's awful. So to answer the question, honestly, what I do think of when I think of Michigan is there's just the stupid helmet. To their credit, you associate that helmet with Michigan, right? Like, so to their credit, like it's Michigan. I hate it so much. There's, local teams here that do it sometimes. There's a bunch of Michigan, obviously, that do it. It is very close for me. The helmet from Michigan and the stupid candy cane pants from IU. Those are very close for me on the hatred scale. So, yeah.
To what Christopher and Anthony said, that kind of went out like if you would say Michigan, like that was for a long time. Typically, what I would think of would be like the two Rocket kickoff returns, the wet AstroTurf and all that kind of stuff for a long time. Honestly, what I think of now is cheating. Like
liars.
Tainted, to me, it's a tainted national championship, regardless of what anybody says. Even though in the big picture, obviously, again going back to what we're talking about with Sherrone Moore being suspended, it's like it's a little deal because nobody cares about the fact that they cheated the way they do. Oh, everybody steals signs. Well, not with video cameras in the stands. That's actually literally against the rules. So, like, cheating is what I've come to think of when I think of Michigan football.
Love it
these days. So
love it.
I had a feeling you might like that one.
Christopher Galloway, he said we took CJ and they hate it. Well, if you ask them, CJ's terrible. So
right. Oh, we didn't want him.
You didn't want him anyway. Right. I can't wait to see them eat those words.
Yeah. I saw his brother was getting some offers from, I think, like maybe Wake Forest or something.
Okay.
Like that.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So since we're talking about Michigan, let's take a look at the 2025 schedule, and we're going to do our new favorite game. We're going to guess the FanDuel over-under season win total for the Wolverines. So Jesse prefers like going through one by one and doing the old, that's a win, that's a loss.
That's a win. I do that to a degree, but then I just kind of like come up with a number that makes sense. You know what I mean? So I do go through the schedule and think, okay, that's a win. I do that in my head. It's a fantastic impression, by the way, of your son. I do that, but then you also have to understand who you're talking about, like program wise, what you think people will bet on, like you know what I mean? Like what a good number actually is. You have to kind of do a big picture look too.
True. So, very true. Okay, so they start off with New Mexico.
Yep.
I don't think anyone's probably too worried about that one. Then they go to Oklahoma.
It's going to be tough.
And then you got Central Michigan. Yeah, everyone's expecting Oklahoma to be better this year. And then you got Central Michigan. Then they go to Nebraska. What's Nebraska going to be? Wisconsin, looking for a big bounce back. They go to USC in October. Then Washington, at Michigan State, Purdue, at Northwestern, at Maryland, and then, of course, they close against Ohio State. That's a very manageable schedule that they've got.
It is.
They won 8 games last year.
Yep, they did. Yeah.
Go ahead. You were going to say something.
And it was a disappointment.
Uh-huh.
I am somewhere between 7.5 and 8.5 with my thought process here. Everybody's high on their quarterback. I think there's a lot of hype surrounding Michigan right now. So I think I want to say 7.5. I think it's going to be 8.5.
Okay. When I looked at it, 8.5 was the first number that popped into my head.
Okay.
It's popped in my head a lot, it seems like.
We've
done these, but
I think we're both right there.
I haven't always gone with my first instinct. I actually, like I said, 8.5 was the first number that popped into my head. And then, what's that?
Are you upping it? Are you going higher?
Well, after 8.5, I was like, man, I look at that schedule. I was like, is 9.5 realistic? I think that might be a shade too high, though.
Yeah, I just feel like this is not a 10-win Michigan team.
Yeah. I like 8.5. I like 8.5 as the number.
That's where I'm at too.
You're going with?
Yeah, because I want it to be 7.5, but I think because it's Michigan, because there's a lot of hype surrounding the freshman Underwood, at quarterback, even though I don't agree, I just think it's going to be 8.5.
Tom is saying 10-2, but very fraudulent. See, and that's like when I look at that schedule.
That's a great season. Sherrone Moore is signing an extension if he gets to 10-2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the toughest game on the schedule is the defending national champion that they beat last year.
I know.
So that's why I was like, could it be 9.5?
The fact that they got 8 wins last year with a win over Ohio State, like they needed that win to get to 8 wins.
Okay, so we're both locked in. You're going 8.5?
8.5.
I'm going 8.5. I'm about to open it up and see what the number is. This is Michigan's official FanDuel season over/under win total. 8.5.
We're getting good at this, man.
I finally got one.
You didn't get one with Jesse?
I didn't talk myself out of it. No, I missed with Jesse last week as well. I think Jesse got his. Who did we do? I think we did Arizona State because you and I did Indiana, and I think the next day Jesse and I did Arizona State.
Okay.
And I think I went. See, I think, 8.5 was the number, and I think I talked myself into 9.5 on that one. So I'm glad I held it at 8.5 on this one. So.
It's going to be – there's a lot of – I will say this. There are a lot of toss-up games, in my opinion, on this schedule for Michigan. And, if they can win those games, then they're going to have a successful season. I just don't have a whole lot of faith that they're going to win every single toss-up game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, as we move into the season and we start seeing how they're playing and things like that, I think those will come into a little bit more focus and we'll be able to see. But I think right now, 8.5, if they can win 9 games, if somebody's going to take the over on the 8.5, that's a hell of a season for Michigan.
I think so too.
In my opinion. I really do. Yep. So.
Vince, Ross Tucker is the NFL Stadium food guy. Do you know who Ross Tucker is?
I don't, but I want his job.
Before? He does, I believe he does some Westwood One radio and like some other, like he'll do some analysis. He fills in for Dan Patrick from time to time. He does some other stuff. He was on NFL Network last week. And on his social media, every press box he goes to, he takes video of the spread in the press box and he ranks the food spreads on his social media accounts. So on Good Morning Football last week, Ross Tucker said, mac and cheese is to be eaten as a condiment, not on its own. So Vince, I ask you, what do you have to say to this?
Is he saying like a side item or like ketchup?
I think he meant more like a side item.
Okay.
I think he misspoke a little bit by saying condiment, but yeah.
First of all, he could not be any more dead wrong on any topic on the planet than this one right here. A well-made baked mac and cheese is absolutely the main dish. It is not a side dish. That is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is egregious on a lot of levels. I know as soon as you heard him say that, you thought of me.
I did. I absolutely. That's why
Yep.
this question is here, and I've been
Yep.
waiting for you since he said it.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. I will eat solo mac and cheese, a
Oh,
good
you will.
baked mac and cheese. Like we're talking.
Oh, it don't have to be good. I can tell you that.
Okay, that may even be true.
I've seen you put it down.
I love me some mac and cheese. It is not a side dish. It is a main dish. And even if so, a lot of times in the press box, they'll have the baked mac and cheese, and they'll have like the pulled pork, that kind of a deal, right?
Right.
The pulled pork is the side item, folks. In my eyes, in my world, that is the side item.
I've seen Vince do it at the national championship game in Atlanta. Speaking of pulled pork and mac and cheese, they had both. It was a beautiful spread. It smelled delightful. And so I sit down and I'm like, how much barbecue can I fit on this freaking plate? And I'm like, got this and I got my, my sauce. And it's like, there's a little bit of room. Let's try to squeeze in a little mac and cheese. Vince literally has the full size plate, all mac and cheese. That nothing but mac and cheese on that. It's like, don't you want a little bit of protein with that, my friend? No protein for Vince.
Not
all
necessary.
Carbs and sloppy cheese. That's all he did. And I think you did the exact same thing at the Blue Gold game, if I'm not mistaken. They had like a pulled chicken and pulled pork kind of thing out there, and it was just all mac and cheese.
Listen, it's not a secret to you that I am a huge fan of the mac and cheese.
I know.
I have 5 children, okay? And mac and cheese happens in our house quite a bit. And there's usually, surprisingly, leftovers because there's like, one kid eats this, one kid eats this, whatever. So there's like mac and cheese. That is like, I'll open the fridge and I'll see that Tupperware full of mac and cheese right to the microwave.
So what is, I'm guessing it's probably some kind of boxed mac and cheese that you're going with in the home. Are you going with the Kraft mac and cheese, or you like Velveeta shells and cheese?
It actually varies. We do both. We are a split household.
Okay.
I personally like the Velveeta shells and cheese if we're going box. But I'll have both, no doubt about it. But yeah, the baked is the best. But obviously there's more.
That's like holiday mac and cheese. Like when
correct.
You're going to go full fancy and breadcrumbs and all that kind of stuff.
That's the best. There's no doubt about it. And I do want to. Salty Virginia peanuts is conceptually, mac and cheese is not any different than fettuccine Alfredo. Noodles and cheese, of course, it can be a main dish. My favorite meal ever, fettuccine Alfredo. That's my go-to favorite meal.
Back when I was a young man, I loved a good fettuccine Alfredo. And this was before I realized how, it's basically.
Oh, it's terrible for you.
Yeah. It's like butter and Parmesan and it's like, it's delicious.
Yeah.
But, it's like,
I know
like this don't like it so much.
You're not wrong. And I don't eat it that often, but yes, it is my favorite.
I do like actually a little, like some mac and cheese, like some pulled pork, a little barbecue sauce on top, like mix it up a little bit. That's like a good call. Okay. You've seen my plates though, like compared to yours. Mine is like 90% protein.
Yes.
And maybe a little bit of carb, but Vince is like completely flipped.
And I'm that weird guy who I don't like my food touching and stuff like that. So I just go with the one thing and let's roll.
Yeah. And see, my wife is the same way. Like she hates holidays because of all the, everyone. But me, it's like, oh, I love my turkey on top of my stuffing and everything, gravy and cranberry sauce, and throw a little sweet potato in there as well.
Oh, my goodness gracious!
We were watching this reality show last week, and there was this guy making the mac and cheese. The wife was at work, and so it was like it was 90 Day Fiance. I don't know if you've ever seen.
I know the concept.
So it was like a guy from another country in America, and it's like the stepkid is home and he wanted mac and cheese for breakfast.
Whoa.
So the guy starts making the Kraft mac and cheese on the stovetop, and the water and the the noodles are still boiling, and he starts dumping in the powder.
Oh boy.
And it was basically like mac and cheese soup. The kid couldn't stand it.
I bet.
And the guy was like, in my country, you don't get the mac and cheese together. You buy the mac and you buy the cheese. So he had never made the instant Kraft
that's
macaroni
great.
and cheese version.
That's
Together.
hilarious. That's
So,
really
yeah.
funny. That is really funny. Now, I will say my favorite fettuccine alfredo, since everybody's kind of throwing their stuff in there. Fettuccine alfredo. I like the seafood fettuccine alfredo with some shrimp and scallops in there.
Yeah.
That's my go-to.
My
right
daughter
there.
actually just got that. They were in Indy a
Mm.
week or so ago, and they went to Cheesecake Factory,
Oh yeah.
and she got the shrimp Alfredo.
Nice. Yeah. See, that's good stuff right there. And Tommy's absolutely correct. I eat like a child. There's no. I have been known to get some chicken fingers and fries at times. Not often, but I a good chicken finger and fry, man. Like if it's a good piece of chicken, like deep, like okay, let's roll, man. I'm good with that. I eat like a child. It's all good though.
Hey, I would if I could, but
I mean, look at me.
if yeah. You're not as bad off as you think you are. Trust me.
I appreciate it. I'll take that.
In general, like you wouldn't like if I ate like you for a month, I would probably weigh 250 pounds. No lie. And you just fluctuate probably within like an 8-pound range or something like that.
I never get too high, never get too low. Like it's whatever.
Yeah.
I've made that decision that I'm going to enjoy food like that. That was like conscious decision,
I wish portion control is what I've found out is I've got
no willpower. I have no willpower whatsoever.
Tough, man. It's
It is hard, man. It's so everybody tells me these diets that they're on and everything. I'm like, you must be miserable.
Seriously. All right, we'll wrap it up with the mac and cheese talk here at the end. All right, great stuff as always. Vince is going to be back in tomorrow, and so tomorrow, just so everybody knows right now, we'll get this up front. We've got a Miami guest on the show. And yes, it will be pre-recorded. I, as always, gave him the option to do it live at 5, but he couldn't do it because he's got kids and he's got to pick them up or something. Kids messing everything up.
Seriously.
So we are recording it, but Vince is on a time crunch tomorrow.
Yep.
So we're actually going to start the show tomorrow with rapid fire, and then we'll have the Miami interview after that. We'll talk a little Carson Beck, obviously, Mario Cristobal, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's coming up on tomorrow's show. We begin with rapid fire, and then we'll have the guest after that.
We'll flip a Rooski, see if everybody's on their toes.
Christopher wants to know if you're going to the Miami game. We haven't talked about it.
We really haven't. I mean, there's no good reason outside of it's probably really expensive for me not to go because that is the week before Hillsdale has their first game.
Oh, okay.
So they have their first game on the bye week for Notre Dame. So there you go. So there's really no good reason for me not to go. But
that helps a little bit.
I'm sure that Brian will be attending, and there's a good chance you will be attending, and so therefore I will not be attending. But if I'm asked to go by the boss, I will be like, yeah, I'll definitely go. See you in Miami, but we'll see.
All right. Well, hit that like button before you leave. We appreciate you being here as always, and we will talk to you tomorrow on IB Nation Sports Talk.
See you, everybody.